Hello, welcome. It's episode 156 of Grow Yourself Up. And today we're going to continue talking about attachment and about earned secure attachment, because I think this is such an important way to consider how we can heal and how we can help ourselves. There are always multiple lenses to look through things. So attachment is one way to look through things. And I'm going to talk to you a bit more about earned secure attachment, about how things that will help with that, and to tell you a few stories about some stuff from my own life about why it's been so important. And you might wonder, why am I going on about this? Well, attachment generally, secure attachment, people who have a secure attachment turn up in the world in a different way. So it fundamentally impacts the way we turn up at work and in our relationships at work, what we believe is possible for ourselves at work. It impacts how we turn up in adult love relationships and what we believe is possible in those. It impacts how we turn up in friendship. It impacts how we feel about ourselves, and it impacts how we expect the world to be. So it's a very powerful, shifting towards earned secure attachment means that our anxiety about the world goes down and our shame goes down, and we start to believe, and at kind of a high level, which filters down into everything, that we are allowed to have good things in our lives, that we can expect good things, that people will be generally kind to us. We believe that, say, at work, we're allowed to apply for the promotion, that we don't need someone else's permission, that we don't have to completely overqualify 500 times before we're allowed to apply. We believe in possibility. We believe in hope. We believe in giving things a go. We're not constantly constrained by anxiety. And in adult love relationships, we expect the other person to treat us well. We believe we're meant to feel comfortable and that our nervous system should sense reciprocity, and that we're allowed to call people out if they don't behave like that, or question what's going on. And the same thing applies in friendships, where we believe we can sense reciprocity, that we can have equal airtime in the friendship, where we are as important as the other person. We don't, because often with a model of insecure attachment, you may find yourself withstanding a lot of stuff that doesn't make you feel good, or you feel always anxious after you see that person, or the care dynamic is really one way, or you always feel a bit sort of unsettled or a bit stressed about where you stand in the friendship. All of those can indicate that you're kind of putting up with something that is maybe not good for you. But when we're in an insecure attachment state, we think that we often, and this is often not conscious, we think, oh, this is just how it is. This is what love looks like because of our model of attachment from childhood. And so, our first relationships of attachment provide our what I talked about last week, the internal working model, what John Bowlby calls the internal working model. So it's kind of like the blueprint of our sense of self and how we imagine interpersonal communications will go and how we are in the world. And Mary Main's research revealed something really interesting, which is, I'm going to read from an attachment book, but this is from Mary Main's research from 1985. It's a research paper. And she says, together with her collaborators on this paper, the rules infants derive from these earliest exchanges govern not only how they behave, but also what they will allow themselves to feel, want, think, and remember. So listen to that. Feel, want, think, and remember. These rules are encoded in children's internal working models that preserve knowledge of their attachment histories and shape their current and future relationships to others and to themselves. So that's talking about infants. And you may be sitting there thinking, okay, but who cares about what happened in babyhood, because I'm an adult now. But again, the attachment research shows that there's about an 80% correlation with how we turn up in adult life in terms of our attachment patterns and how we were at about 12 months. So that's been demonstrated in longitudinal studies, and it's done using two research tools, which I'm not going to go into in great detail now, but which I will talk about further. So one of them is the strange situation, an interview that or a protocol that Mary Main designed, and then there's the adult attachment interview. And in the adult attachment interview, there's a lot of questions which where you reflect back on your attachment patterns, and you talk about how you view your parents, how you viewed your childhood. There's like a whole set of questions, and the consistency of how you were in infancy compared to being an adult is really very high. They do note that if you've had trauma in the intervening years from like 12 months to 19 or 20, that often makes it worse for your attachment patterns. So in this audience where there's childhood trauma, insecure attachment dominates, let me put it that way. And what they found in adult attachment interviews and attachment research is that there's a group of adults, I would include myself. I have not ever done an adult attachment interview. I haven't participated in any attachment studies, but I have insecure attachment, and mine is from my therapy and also from my husband. And they found that there's a group of adults who have got, despite a insecure attachment background, have got insecure attachment, and they attribute this to good interpersonal relationships. So our attachment style can change and be favorably affected. So we can move from being insecure, so in the insecure kind of group where we might be disorganized, we might be more ambivalent, we might be more avoidant. We can move from that group to being more securely attached. Because our working model of attachment, so we rearrange that blueprint in our mind. So our model of attachment gets rearranged when we are held in a web of supportive, loving, consistent relationships. So in the nature of our attachment relationships. And then we can get this insecure attachment. So yeah, so that's really exciting and hopeful and positive. Now, therapy is a massive help with this. I personally, like, the research shows that marriage and kind of secure long-term relationships help with attachment. I personally needed to have therapy, a lot of therapy, to help me become more securely attached to myself before I could turn up in an adult love relationship in a way that approximated secure attachment, because I kept on attracting kind of avoidant or possibly disorganized people, and then together we kind of did more ambivalent or disorganized or avoidant behavior within the adult love relationships. So I needed therapy to help me rearrange my working model of attachment, and then I could take that into an adult love relationship and marriage, and that has really helped me then sort of solidify that new model. I hope that makes sense. So, and one of the things that we have to hold in mind, one of the things that's really magical about therapy is that we have to make space for both the well, what happens in therapy is we make space for and we make sense of the split off, disavowed, disowned or dissociated parts of our own story, at the same time as building a new model of relationship in the moment. So that's why the relationship with the therapist is absolutely vital for the success of your therapy. So all the big meta studies, so a meta study is when they like aggregate a whole lot of other studies. So there's like lots and lots of massive studies into therapy outcomes. And I've got a number of books on it. There's like a book called The Boston Change Process Group. I'm just trying to look on my bookshelf and see if I can see some of these books to tell you. they're called. Anyway, there's massive volumes on therapy outcomes and what predicts a successful therapy outcome. And what the research shows in these big meta studies is that it is not the model, it is not the protocol, it is not the type of therapy that is the predictor of success, the biggest predictor of success. The biggest predictor of success is the nature of the relationship between the therapist and the client. And that is the biggest, the most positive indicator of whether you'll have a positive therapeutic outcome. And so if you are looking for a therapist, I really suggest you interview people. You check how you feel in your body after you've had an introductory call with them. You notice how they respond to your questions. You notice how you feel in response to their questions, because that you have to have a sense that you can develop a warm relationship with them. And it's also important for the therapist to feel they can help you and that they've got the level of skill and competence that you need, and that you have kind of a good energetic match. But it's really, really important that you check in with yourself about that. And it can feel really overwhelming that initially, because even the idea of kind of interviewing people to be your therapist might just feel scary. And you might go through a few therapists, which is also okay. It's like I will have some people in therapy with me, and then they will maybe leave and go to another therapist. Or, obviously I don't know that because they don't contact me to tell me that, but everyone has a different level of where they are or what they might need. And we might need different therapists at different stages of our journey. So really, you can hold it lightly and with fluidity about who you might want to work with or how you might want to find a therapist. I saw, to think about my therapy history, I spent a couple of years in therapy with a male therapist in London who I didn't really find that helpful, and he didn't really have much knowledge of trauma, and he didn't link together a whole lot of things for me that would have been helpful. And at some point I found another therapist, and she linked together a whole lot of things around addiction in my family and trauma and shame, and that made much more sense to me. And then that therapist really springboarded my recovery. But the other therapist was helpful at the time I was seeing him with my level of awareness. And prior to that, I'd seen a grief therapist. So, you can have multiple different relationships over time with different people. Okay. But so how do we, and I guess talking about, if I want to share a bit from my own therapy journey, this idea of making sense of our past and then making a new relationship in the present so that you can really believe that things can be different, because that relationship in the present becomes the vehicle for which you start to see yourself differently. So I always behaved in adult love relationships as if I needed to try really hard, as if I needed to kind of constantly please and be kind of agreeable, even though I was kind of quite feisty. I always had a sort of idea that I was lucky to be there, not really so much of a sense of they were also lucky to have me. And I had a very loving therapist who really helped me learn that I was lovable. And she did some self-disclosure, which was really helpful to me. So I remember her telling me many years ago, because she had also had a journey. I knew some of her own story, and she had also had a journey of finding a new loving partner after not ever having believed in herself. And she was telling me a story about how she had do you remember those things called filofaxes? I mean, this was I don't know, a long time ago, as you can hear, because I'm talking about filofaxes, but she had a filofax which had non-standard page sizes. And this man she was dating, who she later went on to marry, was really generous and kind and really made it she couldn't find the new pages for the new, because a file of facts is like a little file, and then you would buy a new set of pages for each new year. And some of you listening may not even know what a file of facts is. So that's why we have Google. But you would buy a new set of pages each year for the diary, essentially. And she could not find the correct size pages. And this man she was dating made it his mission to find some pages for her, and he customized them so they could fit into her file of facts. And she told me that story, and she said, this is what love is. This is an act of love. This is care. This is worrying and caring about what I need and then helping me fix it. Or he went and did it himself or something. And I was really blown away at the time. I was like, wow, what an effort that he made. How kind. It was like a normal, loving thing to do. It wasn't, it was like a real personal thing to do. And just a loving, generous act. And she said to me, and I am holding for you the idea that you will find someone like this, that you will find someone who really loves you, who really values you, who acts like your things are important, who will help you solve these things. Obviously the file of facts story is just, a broader metaphor for importance of the person, basically. And that really helped me. And she helped me. She hugged me often at the end of a session. She was very warm with me. I learned that I was good enough. I also learned how hard I was on myself from her. Previously, I hadn't been really aware of that. I was just like, I thought this was how things were. And she really helped me with internet dating. So I met my husband online, and internet dating is a literal shit show sometimes. And particularly when you're insecurely attached, you can really get looped into trying to please people, like doing things you're not really sure you want to do, or just it's a complicated kind of model, because it can spike a lot of anxiety if you can see the person that you've been chatting to who's no longer replying to your messages is online and they're not replying to you, or if you thought you had a really nice date, or you thought you had a really nice 5 dates, and then suddenly they ghost you, and you're trying to be cool, but you're also trying to understand what the hell is going on. It's like a real minefield. And she really helped me, like, walk me through the minutiae of what was going on, because and to act, because my tendency would be to like freak out or to push to know exactly what was going on, because I couldn't tolerate the pain of it. And that's a particularly ambivalent kind of attachment style behavior in dating. And she helped me tolerate it, to trust that I didn't know what was going on, to trust that I could sit with the uncertainty, and to act in a way that was reasonable, because it's sometimes hard to act in a way that's reasonable in that kind of arena. And so she really walked me through moderate behavior, right-sizing my own responses, really like modeling different ways of being in relationship. So that was incredibly helpful. And then eventually I met my husband online. And then, so if we're thinking about, if you are thinking, okay, I notice I struggle in relationships, I struggle interpersonally, I always freak out, or I'm very demanding what other people can offer me, or I expect them to be really perfect, or if they don't respond to me within 2 days, I completely freak out and make up a whole lot of stuff about me, when it's actually just that they're very busy and they're stressed with their sick child or something. So if we think about insecure attachment for you, I strongly recommend therapy if you really struggle in relationships, because we really need that model of how a relationship can be. So how the therapist holds the frame in terms of the relationship is really important. And we need emotional support to understand to understand our story, to make sense of it. We really have to make sense of our past, to understand the context, to weave a coherent narrative, to understand how that's impacted our body and how we turn up in our lives. And this is a difficult thing to do by yourself. And if you have always had to do things by yourself, I would suggest it's not a good idea to try and create secure attachment by yourself. That makes sense. You might have a really beautiful friendship group, or you might have a really beautiful love relationship where you can work through some of this. So maybe you have found an adult love relationship where there's enough security that you have managed to alter the working nature of your internal working model. The kind of you've shifted your patterns, you've shifted how you turn up, and you shifted what you believe in people. That's fantastic, because the emotional support is really, really important. When we're working on secure attachment, we also have to really shift our viewpoint about ourselves and about the world. Because when we've had trauma, I've talked about this a bit before, there's a sense of we're always waiting for bad things to happen, for the other shoe to drop, as it were, and that, you can't quite believe that good things could happen. And we have to make a shift to think, I'm allowed good things. This life can be beautiful and abundant and full of ease and loaded with compassion. And I can meet people who are loaded with compassion. And I can meet people who really love me. And I am lovable, even if I'm not working or producing. But we have to be prepared to step into that different reality and to imagine that can be a possibility. I hope that makes sense, because if we continue to think, oh, my life is just totally shit and everything is going to be shit forever, it's difficult for that story to change, basically. We have to be prepared to at least entertain the possibility that it can change, and to set an intention around that and maybe put some effort in towards changing that. So that believing that something can be different, that believing that you're allowed to write something different in your story. The next page in your story does not have to be related to your past. Yes, we do take our insecure attachment patterns with us. Yes, in the dating, I did take my insecurities and my patterns of relating that maybe didn't make much sense into some of those relationships. But I had to believe in the way that I conducted myself that something could be different, and that I could find someone who would be wonderful, and that I was allowed to have someone wonderful. If that makes sense. So there's that believing something's different, believing we can have good things, believing there can be good things with other people. And we also really have to work on altering our behavior to act as if. So, for example, if I go back to the online dating example, I think I would really love to write a dating book, actually. But anyway, if we alter our behavior, so if we say we go on a date and we text each other after the date or message each other and say, that was a lovely time, thank you so much. And then they say, hope to see you again, or I'll give you a call next week or something. And then they don't do that. If you're really tending into the insecure area, you might then either, if they don't text you, you might never text them again either. You might send a whole lot of frantic text asking, why haven't they texted? You might stalk them online or something, or just say, what happened? Don't you like me anymore? You might really spin into the anxiety and shame. Whereas if you're going to act as if, you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and you're going to think, oh, okay, let me just think about the date. We had a really nice time together. We appeared to get on really well. They said they would like to see me. We confirmed we would like to see each other again. We did text afterwards. So I am just going to assume everything is good. I don't have any other information that is indicating things are not good. And I am going to act as if, and I can take some action. So in that case, it might be that you go, hey, how are you? Are you having a good week? Would you like to get together for lunch? Or would you like to go for a walk? Or would you like to get together for a drink? So you are occupying a place of strength and agency and not seeking a lot of reassurance and not acting from a lot of anxiety. You're just assuming things are okay where you left them based on the last data that you had, because the last data was the set of ticks after the date and the good date. But it's extremely, extremely difficult to do that when we are actually attached, because our own, our nervous system patterns are literally like what's going on. And the anxiety in our body means our thoughts spin out, so that acting as if I'm making it sound like it's kind of quite easy. It's not easy. So if you're listening to this and you are, even in job interviews or with lots of interpersonal negotiations, when we have shame and anxiety come up, we layer loads and loads of stories on top of actually what's happened. And we find it difficult to actually keep on going back to the first principles about what is the actual real data we have here. And so when we're trying to craft secure attachment, we want to put out a different blueprint, essentially. And then you actually get a different response. And this is often where we need that therapeutic support to help us do that. There are books that will help with this. I'm not in any way trying to suggest game playing. I'm not trying to suggest like power plays or things like that. Or like ignoring people or anything like that. I'm trying to suggest that when you're operating from a place of secure attachment, you give the other person the benefit of the doubt and you assume they must have a lot going on. Maybe they're quite stressed or they had a deadline at work. I'm not going to make this mean something about me. Whereas when we are operating from a more insecure place, we make everything about us, and it's never good. We never make up that it's good. It's always something negative, or they think this about me, they think I'm bad, they think I'm that, they want to get away from me, things like that. So earn secure attachment really opens up your world, because you can start operating from a different position. You operate from the position from, I'm allowed to have good things flow into my life. Good things happen to me all the time. You start to take things less personally. You see that life happens to everyone. No one escapes this thing called life. You may look at other people and think, oh, they have less pain than me, or this or that or that. No one escapes this. You do not know what is going on in someone else's internal world. They might be very good at projecting shininess, or, I don't know, only showing you the highlight reel or something. And what you're trying to craft for yourself is to move away from thinking everything is going to be bad towards having hope and possibility and thinking things can be great. I'm allowed good things. So I think that this earned secure attachment really requires either loving relationships that hold you in this and kind of have the time and the patience to reassure you, or a therapist. And creating earned secure attachment for ourselves means that we can, it's really helpful in terms of our own attachment with our children and in terms of creating secure attachment for our children. So going back to what I was talking about last week about being fully self-supporting, this is really about being really compassionate to yourself, around holding both the fact that you're making sense of your disavowed or dissociated past, and for creation of new models of behavior in the present moment. But sometimes we go back to our main highway of our trauma patterns, basically, because those are the biggest neural pathways in terms of they're the most frequently traveled. And so if that happens, that will happen. Please be really gentle with yourself, because part of being fully self-supporting is being compassionate to yourself when things don't go well or when you do go into old behavior. That's not when you need criticism. That is when you need more love. Many of us have learned that love is conditional and that we are only lovable if we're doing things right. And I want to suggest that you need so much love all of the time. And when things are going wrong, you need even more. Wrong in inverted commas, but when there's a lot of pain or you're having a lot of grief, that's when you need to really double down on really supporting yourself. So that's really been a whistle-stop tour of kind of earn secure attachment, what some of the important considerations are. But if you're not able to be in therapy at this point in time, and you may be at early motherhood, really try and focus on self-compassion, on developing a compassionate voice. That also can be difficult when you're alone, when you don't have another relationship that's modeling compassion. But I hope that some of the ways that I share here and the ways that I talk to myself will help you embody a loving voice for yourself. Because in this job of reparenting ourselves, we want to be parented by a loving part of ourselves. We don't want a critical part of ourselves beating us up all the time. So really go gently on yourself, celebrate yourself, congratulate yourself, and know that we can always, always work on our attachment and we can always shift things. Okay, I'm sending you so much love.